What's up everybody, it's Drew Wilkins with Swine and Bovine Barbecue, and in this video we're making some direct heat, crispy skin, picnic roast pork sandwiches. Let's get going. Pork picnic roast. This is from the front part of the pig, or the shoulder part of the pig, and it actually sits directly below where you would get a traditional pork butt or pork shoulder. The beloved barbecue cut that we always see has the money muscle, nice and fatty. You can actually see the blade bone here. This is something that, unless you get a boneless pork butt, you're going to see this blade bone in your pork butt as well. So why get the picnic roast? Easy. It's got skin on it. And we're making some crispy skin pork roast, picnic roast sandwiches today, and I am thrilled about it. The traditional pork butt, it does have a little more marbling in it. It's got that money muscle that you hear in competition barbecue that people slice off and turn in on its own, but it does not come with the skin on like this does. And in order to make crispy skin pork shoulder sandwiches, we're gonna need the skin on it. And there's really not much to do to prepare this cut for cooking. There's got some little scragglers here that I'll cut off. That's really all we need to take off. We've got that much out of an over 9-pound pork shoulder. Then from a seasoning perspective, we're going super simple, just some salt onto the meat here. We're gonna be cooking this direct heat, and it's gonna take a long time to cook. So I don't want anything like black pepper or garlic powder or anything like that that's gonna have a high propensity to burn when it's over a direct cooking source for longer periods of time. So just a light coating of some Diamond Crystal kosher salt, and that's all we're gonna do. Let's go fire up the pit. Our pit is cruising along between 250 and 300 degrees, exactly where we want it. We want to keep it there for the duration of the cook. So it's time to get our picnic roast on, and we are going meat side down. We want this skin side to be up. And as I'm sure some of you noticed, when we were prepping this picnic roast, we only seasoned the meat side. That's because we're going to give this skin side a heavy coating in just some regular old Morton's iodized salt. This is going to do a couple of things for us. It's going to protect the skin from all the fat dripping smoke that we get with direct heat from turning it a nasty color. And it's also going to pull moisture out of the skin and help us get that crispy skin, which is the whole reason we're making direct heat crispy skin pork sandwiches. So we're going to give this a nice coating on the top, on all the skin surfaces. Just because of the roundness of this, it won't be possible to get everything. This nice coating of salt is going to go a long way in helping us get that crispy skin that we're looking for. And this isn't really going to add much salinity to the finished product. This is, again, pulling out moisture, protecting the skin. So don't worry about going too heavy. You're not going to end up with an overly salty finished product. So now we're going to shut it down and let it cook. This is probably going to be an 8+ hour cook. So we're going to go 4 hours at least meat side down before we even consider flipping this. We're going to try and keep the temps anywhere between 250, 300. For now, we're going to shut it down and let it cook. One thing you're going to have to do in a longer cook on the Chud box is add charcoal to your cook. So I traditionally like to wait until the temps start coming down a little bit, and then I'll just come in and add some charcoal over the top. Mixture of some small and big pieces, usually bigger pieces though. Kind of position it around wherever you want. Just a few pieces here and there. And once that's done, I'll come over, put it on the 3rd notch to allow for some airflow for the next 10 minutes. Then I'll shut it back down to 1, which is where I traditionally leave it to cook. But for now, gonna let it get some airflow. Let's go make our slaw. For our slaw, we're gonna start with 1 small head of cabbage. We're gonna cut it right down the middle of this core, and then just core it. Come here at an angle. Got our core out. Then we're gonna dice it into thin strips. Now that we've got these strips, we're just going to go for a fine dice. So just take a little bit off at a time. We've got this nice finely diced, so we're going to put it in a bowl, and we'll make our dressing. For our slaw dressing, we're going to start out with a lot of sugar. We're going to add in some mayonnaise, some Miracle Whip, then a little yellow mustard. And mix this up till it's all nice and combined. Now we're going to take our sweet dressing and pour it over the top of our cabbage. Now just mix everything together. Now we're going to cover up this slaw, put it in the fridge for the next 4, 5, 6 hours until we're actually ready to eat. You want to make this in advance because the sugar, the dressing, it's all going to interact with this cabbage and make it nice and sweet. There'll be some juice on the bottom, and it's really going to counteract the fattiness from the pork, as well as the vinegar that we're going to put into our sauce that's going to go into the pork, which we're going to make here in a little bit as well. But this is actually Sam Jones's coleslaw recipe. You can find it online all over the place. I highly recommend picking up his whole hog cooking book as well. It's fantastic. I own it. I've made a lot of things in it, and it's hard to beat. So check that out, and you can find this recipe online in several different locations. We are 5 hours into this cook, and it is time to take this salt off and put this picnic roast skin side down. So the salt fell off in some spots, not a big deal, but for the most part did its job, and it comes off as nice big pieces. And get this salt off, and then I'm just gonna dust all this off. Did its job. The skin looks nice, pretty clean. Now we're gonna flip this over. We have some great color on the meat side, and now skin side down. We're going to let this go for the next several hours. We want that skin to get nice and crispy, ideally until this picnic roast is finished, but if we need to flip it, if the top part's not getting as tender as we want and the underside is finished tender, then we'll flip this back to where the meat side is down. But ideally, in a perfect world, we'll cook this until that skin is nice and crispy and this picnic roast is done. But one thing we're going to do to this meat side, because it's kind of tough in some spots, is hit it with a mop sauce. That'll soften some of that up, as well as give it some fantastic flavor as well. So let's shut this down and go make a mop sauce. I'm going to start our mop sauce off by melting down some butter. Butter is melted down, so we're going to go in with half of a yellow onion. We go in with 1 lemon sliced up, some apple cider vinegar, some white vinegar, a healthy amount of Worcestershire sauce, some hot sauce, crushed red pepper, granulated garlic, paprika, cayenne, kosher salt, ground mustard, coarse black pepper, and some brown sugar. Mix this up and our mop sauce is done. So now we're going to lightly hit the meat side with our mop sauce. This will help soften up some of the tougher bits, as well as give it a fantastic flavor. Come back and do this probably every 45 minutes or so. We're not going to do it that often. We don't want to overpower the flavor with it like we would if it was ribs and mop it every 10 minutes, because when we start mopping ribs, there's not a whole lot of time left in the cook. With this, we got a lot of time left. So mop it every 45 minutes. Now shut it down and let it cook. 3 hours after we flip this skin side down, we are almost done. We've got a little more to go over on this side, but I don't want to get the skin overly crispy, so we're going to flip her back over, and it's looking fantastic, and we're going to have some nice crispy skin. Got a little dark on the edges here where the mop sauce ended up getting on the skin. It's to be expected. There's no way to mop it and avoid that, at least that I've been able to find. If you have, let me know in the comments. But for now, we're going to let now the right side of this finish cooking, and once it's done, we'll be back to pull it. A little over 9 hours in, and it is time to pull this picnic roast. We're still a little tight over on this side. Everywhere else is feeling fantastic, but I'm thinking the carryover is going to get us to the tenderness we need here. So we're going to pull this sucker off. Let's see how this underside's looking. It's stuck just a little bit. It's got some great color. That skin is still nice and crispy. So we're going to let this rest in a foil pan till it comes down to about 140 degrees. Then we'll pull it apart, chop it up a little bit, and dig in. But while it's resting, let's make a barbecue sauce. For our barbecue sauce, we're going to start out with some ketchup and a little bit of mustard, a good amount of Worcestershire, good amount of apple cider vinegar, some hot sauce, coarse black pepper, kosher salt, chili powder, paprika, crushed red pepper, granulated garlic, and some cane sugar. And lastly, going to thin it out with some water. Whisk this up, taste for flavor, and our barbecue sauce is done. Picnic roast is looking fantastic, smelling even better. So let's go ahead and get this thing pulled apart. First thing we want to do is get this skin off. Still nice and hard, and it'll peel right off. I mean, could not be easier to take this off. Just take it right off the bone here. The good thing about flipping it over to get the other side like we had to is we help crisp up this bottom side a bit too. For now, we're gonna set this to the side. I mean, this bone just couldn't have come out cleaner. And now let's just shred this apart. You could chop this, you could do whatever you wanted to with it. We're just gonna shred it. That is a pretty clean bone. This is the area that was a little tougher. When it's the area that took the longest to fully cook. Doesn't feel bad at all now. Especially once we get it mixed in with everything else, it's gonna feel really good. Bottom of this is maybe a tad bit tough. Could have mopped it a little bit after we took it off potentially to avoid that, but we're gonna be extra careful and shred this up a little bit. That way we'll get nice little crispy bites in addition to our crispy skin in some of these little tougher areas. Our picnic roast is pulled. Now it's time to deal with this crispy skin. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna cut it into little bite-sized pieces. That way we can sprinkle a little bit on top of each sandwich. You can mix it back into the mixture if you'd like. I just like to sprinkle it on top of the sandwich. That way I know exactly what I'm getting with each bite. Just gonna go with that amount for now and then just dice it up into little small pieces. It is time to assemble our sandwich. First thing to do is go down with a nice big old pile of our pork. Come over the top with a little bit of our sauce. Some of our crispy skin bites. And then lastly, we didn't forget about that coleslaw. You see how it's got its own liquid in there now? The graininess of that sugar is gone. We're gonna top it off with a little bit of this slaw. That's a good looking sandwich. We have ourselves 3 absolutely delicious looking sandwiches, as well as a pile of pork with some sauce, and then an all natural pile of pork. Let's dig in. The time has come. Pretty long cook. Pretty hands off though. That's one of the nice things about direct heat cooking. Once you figure out your cooker, you figure out when to add coals like we talked about earlier in the video. There's not much to it. It's a pretty simple cook and also a fun cook. Smells fantastic. Love seeing the development of the crispy skin in this, plus the underside or the meat side of that pork getting nice and browned and delicious looking as well. It's a really fun cook process. So first off, we've got a little bit going on here. So we've got the pork with nothing on it, just the pork all natural. Then we've got the pork with a little bit of our barbecue sauce on it, and then we're gonna try a sandwich. But all natural pork, got it nice and bundled up here. Let's give it a go. Cheers. That's really good, considering the fact that we didn't have a traditional vessel to catch some of the juices from the meat. When I cook pork butt, I usually foil boat it, so that catches some of that juice and I'll mix that back in with the meat when I shred it. Well, we didn't wrap this whatsoever. It finished directly over the coals the entire cook. And for not having any additional moisture to add to it like that, that is really good. We just seasoned it with salt, but that mop comes through and you get a piece of the skin as well. It's also just really good pork flavor. So let's try some with some barbecue sauce. Yeah, that barbecue sauce is really good with it. Adds a nice bit of tang. We added quite a bit of vinegar to it. It also has a good amount of spice from the crushed red pepper, from the hot sauce that we added to it as well. It's just a really good thin barbecue sauce. It doesn't overpower it, just adds to it, which is what we want. We don't want the sauce to be the star of the show. We spent 9 hours making the star of the show. Last but not least, what we came here for, picnic roast, direct heat, crispy skin sandwich. I'm pretty excited to take a bite of this. Cheers. It's phenomenal. Once you add everything together like we did here, with the pork, with the sauce, with the slaw, and then you throw it on a bun, it just molds together so well and is better together than it is individually. And you would think that that slaw would be, you'd think that that slaw would be incredibly sweet, but it's not. Maybe if you slurped up the juice out of it, it might be overly sweet. But when you put it on with the pork, you put it on with the sauce, and then you add the bun, it balances everything out so well. It is incredibly good. My God. And then to top it all off, you get those bites of crispy skin, and it's just an explosion of flavor. I cannot recommend giving this a shot enough. If you have a direct heat cooker, pick up a picnic roast next time instead of a traditional pork butt. You're gonna love it. It's really, really good. It's just as easy to cook, and you're rewarded with some fantastic crispy skin. And if you want to, when the skin is done crisping, flip it over a little earlier, put it in a foil boat, collect some of those juices. You wouldn't want to fully wrap it in foil because then you could hurt the process that you went through to get that skin crispy. But this is just really, really good and just a nice, fantastic meal that you can feed a lot of people with. It's probably something they haven't had before. Not a lot of people that I know, at least, that aren't traditionally into barbecue have had crispy skin pork sandwiches. So it'll be something new they hadn't had before. I guarantee you they're gonna like it. That's gonna do it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. If you have any comments on what I could have done differently here or on what you want to see me cook next, please leave it in the comment section down below. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.